I've been still getting a lot of questions about when do I shear my trees and how do I shear my trees? How do I get them to looking like a Christmas tree? Let's talk about that. We've been talking about trimming Christmas trees. We did this on an earlier video as well, but I thought it was as we had time to do it today, we would go ahead and get another video in on how to shear these Christmas trees. You know, the joke is people come up and they ask you, when do I trim my Christmas trees? When do I trim them? And the answer you're going to get from a lot of experienced growers is, well, when they need it. But the real good answer to that would be sometimes twice a year, sometimes once a year. And there are some places that you might want to trim it about 3 times a year. But I'm of the opinion that you can actually trim too much. So, because that just opens the tree up to diseases and this kind of thing. But, and it also takes away from the strength of the limb. But here at Ralston Acres, what we do is we will trim these trees sometimes twice a year. And this would be on my young trees, like what we're going into right here. And the older trees that we're going to sell for this year, we probably will give them a trim up here in about say 2 months before their selling season starts. And that'll be the only shearing they get. The reason for that is we want those limbs to be somewhat sturdy for the Christmas ornaments. So with that said, let me show you a couple of pieces of equipment that you're going to need. I'm going to have to throw these sunglasses on because this is it's a hot August afternoon here at Ralston Acres. So this is called a Beinecke trimmer. This Beinecke trimmer is good for sculpting. Now they make two varieties of this trimmer. One is gas powered, which is what I have and we've had for a good while. And then they also make a battery powered. And I've heard some good reports on the battery powered Beinecke trimmer as well. Uh, but as you can see, I don't know if the camera is going to get this close up or not, but this has the cutting disc on the end, and it's got these little appendages here that have their sharpness, and that's what will actually cut the limb that you're wanting to cut off. It just is powered by this small engine. We mix gas and put it in here, and usually it's good for about maybe hour and a half, 2 hours. I usually say about 100 trees before it runs out and you have to refuel. Another important thing that I want to mention is these right here, hearing protectors. Now, as you see, this one here has had a little bit of wear on it. These hearing protectors are a must if you're going to have a gas powered because it's protecting your ears from the sound of this gas engine. It is not quiet. It's not the loudest thing, but it is not quiet. So I wanted to show you another one. Could you hand me that other one right quick, and we'll look at this one right here. The Beinecke is what I use on smaller trees. It is best for sculpting the trees to put them in that original Christmas tree shape. I like that on the Beinecke trimmer that we just had up. This one right here, I'm just going to pull this up a little bit. As you can see, it's got the sickle blade on the end. Of course, I can take this all the way off, but I use it for light trimming, especially on the bigger trees. Once they've got that Christmas tree shape, then I'll use this right here to sort of let it keep that Christmas tree shape. And this one right here doesn't do as good a job, I don't think, with sculpting the trees, but it does a real good job and probably a little faster than the Beinecke for just your regular trimming. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and trim one or two of these. The size is important. I'm going to go ahead and set this down right here for a second. Oh, there's one other piece of equipment I wanted to bring up. Would you hand me that? This is not necessary to have, but it is a time saver and a weight saver. This is called my Easy Lift harness. You see the harness right here. It's got you buckle around the middle, and you have this right here around your shoulders. This will take a lot of the weight of these machines, whether it's the Beneke, which is about a 10-pound machine, or the steel trimmer, the big sickle trimmer that I've got, which is about a 14-pound machine. And 14 is about the limit on this particular model of a harness. But you just buckle it up around yourself as like so, and we're gonna hook it up in a minute. But you hook this to the trimmer, and it takes the weight off of it, and we'll show you that in just a second. One thing that a lot of people will ask, well, how big do I need to get this tree before it needs to be trimmed? I had the pleasure several years ago of taking a tour of Bill Murray's Christmas tree farm in Cordele, Georgia. Now, if you don't know who Bill Murray is, he is basically the father of the Murray cypress. And these are Murray cypress right here. And one of the things he told me, because he was in the business for goodness gracious, 30, 40 years, I guess. But one of the things he told me was you start trimming these trees when they get about waist high. Well, as you can see, this one is a little behind schedule, but waist high is okay to start. And what we're going to do is we're just going to sort of train this tree as to its Christmas tree shape, and then we're going to leave it. But one thing that I wanted to show you here before we get too far. Okay. One of the things I wanted to show you on this Murray cypress right here is trimming the top. That's sort of left up to you as to how you want to trim the top. But here's the thing about a Murray cypress. It wants to give you a dominant leader at the top, but if you don't trim it just right, it may give you double leaders or even triple leaders. Let me show you what I mean. You see the difference in color between this and this? This wood right here has been hardened off. It's pretty much done right here. But this is the growth of the tree. I can go in here and I can cut it in what I call in the yellow or the green, if depending on what color you want to name it, and stay out of the brown, and this leader will come back. However, if I cut it down here in the brown, one of these limbs right here is going to take off and form a new leader. Matter of fact, most likely they both will. So you have to be careful not to cut too deep on this tree unless you want to have multiple leaders coming up. Another thing that you'll notice about the Murray cypress and also some other Arizona cypress, Murray cypress, blue eye cypress, is that it will put out some dominant limbs toward the bottom of the tree. Sometimes it'll be one dominant limb that'll just take off crazy. Sometimes it might be two. But what we try to do on those is to go ahead and cut into the brown there. Whatever you cut into the brown, it's almost like giving the tree a message saying, okay, this is as far out as I want to go. Now let's bush out. Let's take it to the other branches. And so if I wanted to let this end of the tree bush out, I'm probably going to cut back here in the brown, which is going to let these other little appendages here start getting thick. And that's what you want. You want a good, thick Christmas tree. So I don't worry about cutting this in the green. This right here is where I just don't want to cut into the brown. This down here, it's okay. All that does is just let the tree sort of start to bush up. So here's a good example of that crazy leader right here. This one right here, see this right here? It wants to compete, but it's just one big limb that's wanting to try to compete with this leader right here. So what I'll do is come in here and just cut him off and just let him bush out right there. So let's take a quick look at some shearing, and I'm going to let my cameraman just sort of watch me as I shear and understand some of you experienced people that have trimmed with before. Everybody's got a little different method. I've got one, everybody's got one, but this is what works for me. Okay, this is what we was talking about a minute ago. This rope is connected to the top of this harness, And I just take that and I've installed a little hook on this machine, and basically it will balance itself right here. Now, the safety is of utmost importance to me. Trust me, I have been there. I've cut myself with this, so I'm wanting to try to be safe. But you can see I can take one finger and balance this binnacle, and it sort of takes the weight off of your shoulders. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around here, and we're going to take a few of these trees that this will be their first shearing, their first attempt at shearing. Good. Okay. Just so you'll know, these trees will need to be trimmed again next year, excuse me, probably maybe in the spring of next year, late spring, and maybe again in the fall, depending upon how well they have stayed to this Christmas tree shape. Now, I've only showed you two of these trimmers, the Beneke and what I call a steel hedge trimmer. There are some more out there. There's something called, I guess you pronounce it S-A-J-E, a Seiji, which is basically you have a backpack and you got the blade in front of you, and it's sort of sitting straight up and down like this, and it's going back and forth, and you just basically walk around the tree. You know, those are good. I'm not going to talk bad about them. They're a good machine. They're a little more expensive than what we've talked about right here. And to be honest with you, I tend to gravitate toward these as opposed to the Seiji, even though I know that with the fir varieties and some of those trees like that, the Seiji is probably well worth the money. So with all that, I wanted you to get a good idea about how we're going to trim. We've got about, oh, let's see, I'm thinking about maybe 3,000 more to trim. I've done 3. But you know, the hardest part of trimming is that first 100. The easiest part of the trimming is the last 100. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's hot. It's about 93 or 4 degrees out here. Heat index about 100. I'm tired. I've been mowing all day. And that's another thing. You don't want to be doing this when you're tired, because that's when accidents can happen. But I did want you to see this in action. Yes, we're cutting off everything. If you'll look back here, everything that doesn't look like a Christmas tree, that's what we're cutting off. But we'll show you some more later. But I wanted to show you that today. Don't forget, if you like the contents of this video, please hit the subscribe button. We get a lot of views during the course of the month, a lot of views, but only a small portion of them ever subscribe. I think it's just the fact that you want to go in there and hit that subscribe button. You like the content, but go ahead and hit the subscribe button. There's also another place where it's thumbs up, thumbs down. If you like the content, go ahead and give me a thumbs up there. It can only help me. It doesn't cost you a penny. Thank you for being with us today. I appreciate my cameraman, camera lady, excuse me. And we'll see you next time on Farming Around the Christmas.